Today on Locked On Canadiens, les Canadiens ont vaincu les Senators d'Ottawa.
Laura, I can't believe you'd say all that about Brady Tkachuk.
You're Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode 1252 of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day and for subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Doing that supports the show and ensures you do not miss an episode. We are Locked On Canadiens, your episode, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. My name is Ian Boisbert, also known as That Maybe a Team, and I'm joined, as I always am, by the incomparable active stick, Laura Saba. Laura, Montreal, Ottawa did not disappoint. Pre-game, during the game, post-game, all of it was fantastic. How are you doing on this Monday morning as people are listening to this?
I personally, the way that I'm doing is that I believe that you should go to the original source if you want to report something.
Yes, I think that is a fantastic journalism pro tip that you'll get from you expect nothing else from the folks at Locked On, is that we are stalwarts of great journalism. We always have been, always will be. Had to do a little bit of poking fun off the rip of this show because it set up what was a pretty great game for the Montreal Canadiens on Saturday night in Ottawa. They come back from their Four Nations face-off break to defeat the Ottawa Senators 5-2. Really great game across the board for the Habs, but especially for one Juraj Slafkovsky. We'll talk about his quasi-breakout game in our second segment. We'll finish the show with something we haven't been able to do in a while, a weekly forecast. We get to set you guys up for the week ahead for the Montreal Canadiens. 3 games, all of them pivotal. It could determine a lot of how the rest of the season plays out. So we're gonna break down those matchups. But first, let's start Saturday night at the Road Bell Center, also known as, is it still the Canadian Tire Center? I can't even remember at this point.
I believe it is the CTC still, yeah, because it was like Scotiabank Place or something before.
Maybe I don't know. All of the Canadian buildings changed their names to it's like 3 different companies that are just kind of like changing names.
Bell, Rogers, and Scotiabank.
Yeah. Exactly. But Montreal rolls in there. The fans rolled in there just as deep. They were olaying in the first period. It was a wild atmosphere. Montreal walks out of there with a 5-2 win. 2 of the guys that we talked about that we wanted to see continue to, we set up goals for them in Cole Caulfield and Lane Hutson. Both of them moved in that direction. Cole Caulfield picked up another goal. Lane Hutson picked up an assist on an incredible Patrick Laine one-timer on the power play. That power play took all of 3 seconds. It was a thing of beauty. From that game, what's your favorite moment? What do you look back on Saturday and go, that's what I wanted to see when the Canadiens came back?
Honestly, the Laine moment, and I wasn't in the group chat because as longtime listeners of the show will know, we have a group chat with former co-host Scott Matla. We like to call it the Matla meter, but I avoid the group chat a lot because I can't pay attention to the phone and the game at the same time. Like, I need my brain cells. So later on, when I saw like Ian and Scott were laughing so hard about that, I think it was the fact that it, like, we wanted to see it from Lane Hutson, and just like the smug joy, right? That was it. And I think, we talked about it in the tournament, how this was a good tournament for Patrick Laine, and it was going to bring him back, et cetera, et cetera. But I think just that was the moment where I remembered how it felt when the Canadiens were in the mix, right?
Yeah. It really, that whole game just felt like that. The way they forechecked, the way they got in, and they did the, as Marty says, the I can't even remember the term that he uses now. The non-negotiables, right? All the non-negotiables were done in that game. They all forechecked well. They got, and we'll talk about Slav a little bit more in the second segment here, but he was a big part of that, establishing that forecheck, as was Josh Anderson. He goes into the corner. He's absolutely interfered with on the forecheck. And the Senators said, okay, we feel bad. Here you go, Brendan Gallagher. And they just burped the puck right to Brendan Gallagher in the middle of the slot for the game's first goal. Sloppy game from Ottawa all around. I thought that they just were not ready for that game. Both these teams came into Saturday night having lost 3 straight. Now Ottawa's lost 4 straight. They're kind of sputtering at the moment, and they kind of need to get it together if they want to be a playoff team. It's going to be a tight race the rest of the way.
Yeah. And like you do have to note, obviously Brady Tkachuk didn't play. We'll get to that in a bit. Jake Sanderson was not there. And so, guys still getting back, resting, it took a lot out of them.
Yeah.
The
Sanderson played. He actually didn't he end up Sanderson played. He scored. It was Tkachuk, Norris, and Pinto.
It was Norris, sorry.
Yeah, still, look, the Senators should be used to being without Josh Norris at this point. He rarely has played for them. He's a great player. He just cannot stay healthy. It's unfortunate. But, that was the one where I know Sens fans were like, oh, we didn't have Norris. I'm like, when have you had Norris? Like, that's not a factor. If he's there, great. But if not, that's the team that you guys should be used to rolling out. Sam Montembeault returns to the net for the first time in 2 weeks. And I thought that he wasn't tested much early on. He gave up a power play goal where the Senators were buzzing on a power play that they drew on an incredible dive that the Senators have led the league in power play opportunities for the 2 years leading into this one and this year. They're leading in that category, and it's fairly obvious to see why. Like they fool the referees on more than one occasion. Twice in this game, just blatant flops that get called. But
somebody should do like a supercut of all the dives that they've done in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, we could, but this is a 30-minute show. We'd have to run 4 of them. I just think that Sam Montembeault didn't have a lot of opportunities to make saves early on, because then the second goal was Tim Stützle on a breakaway and I have to bring it up. For those on YouTube, for those not on YouTube, we have pulled up the Matheson meter, the Magic Mike meter, because on that play, he just handed Tim Stützle the puck at the blue line, and his game really did not recover from that. So I mean, for me, it's a one. It's a tragic Mike.
Tragic Mike, yes.
Yeah, absolutely a tragic Mike night. The one aspect that I do want to talk about in this game, and I'm going to take a quick victory lap on this one, Laura. When we were in our Four Nations break period, where we were kind of talking about pairings and lines that we'd want to see when they came back, all the forward lines went back to when the Canadiens were fully healthy. That's fine, but the pairing that I wanted to see was Lane Hutson and Struhl, and they were fantastic. 70% of the expected goals at 5-on-5 when they were on the ice, 69% of the Corsi of the shot attempts, 20-9. When they were on the ice, the Canadiens led shot attempts at 5-on-5, 20-9. That's incredible. An incredible night from those guys. They played great. Struhl played great. I kind of thought he would, and it simplified his game. He just made great decision after great decision, simple play. I hope the Canadiens might have found something here. I'm not sure how long they stick with it, obviously, but what did you think of their night?
I'd like to see them against really tough competition. I really do, because this was really good. But like you said, the Senators played a sloppy game. And honestly, it's not, I don't think the Senators are bad. I just think that they're not a complete lineup, right? There's holes in that lineup. And so for me, it's mostly that I want to see it against a really tough team to play against, and then I will call it, because I'll fully admit that I was skeptical, right? When you brought it up, I was skeptical. I think Lane Hutson has that pedigree, and with Jaden Struble, you don't look at him and think of him as a top pairing defenseman, right? So to me, in my mind, whoever plays with Lane Hutson has to be a top pairing defenseman. So that's where I was coming from. But they played really well together, as you said. The underlying numbers don't lie. And one of the points that we made was Lane Hutson can make it work with anybody. So it was really good to see. Honestly, let's see them play together for more games.
Yeah. And look, we're going to get that tougher opponent on Tuesday. Carolina's rolling into Montreal. That's a team that not only the Canadiens have historically struggled with over the last few years, but just one of the best teams in the NHL. So that'll be a really, really great test to see if that pairing has the juice, if they have what they need to be able to play. Last guy I wanted to talk about, we teased it off the start of the show with Arber Xhekaj. Obviously, his comments before the game get taken out of context, which, water under the bridge at this point, especially since Brady Tkachuk didn't play. There wasn't the ability to create an international incident.
Because that's what it was heading for, right? That was the thing that bothered me, was the not just the fact that it was misquoted or mistranslated or whatever. It was that the quote itself had the potential to cause a lot of unnecessary narratives and drama, and then Sportsnet had to like correct it off the bat.
Yeah, I thought Sportsnet did a great job by essentially saying that he compared it to Slapshot in the sense that they were both equally fabricated, which I thought was an incredible way to handle that from Sportsnet. I thought they did a great job.
Yeah.
Yeah. But to bring up Arbor Xhekaj, the last thing I'll say is I thought he was fantastic as well. That's a guy who talked the talk, even if he didn't say what he said to, the letter of the law of what was reported. He did kind of say like he wanted to butt heads with one of the best players in the league. He wanted to challenge that incredibly physical player. And while he didn't get the opportunity to, he still understood the assignment. He still understood what his role was on this team. I thought Arbor Xhekaj had a fantastic game for the Montreal Canadiens on Saturday night. And, short of him, performing his regular operations of like a fighter and an enforcer, that's kind of the defender you want to see from Arbor Xhekaj. So really great night from him as well.
I thought everything he did was well placed and warranted, right? So whenever you say that about Arbor Xhekaj, like then you know that he didn't go off the rails. He really did what the Canadiens needed him to do. So I really like the whole team. I get happy when the Canadiens beat Ottawa. Like I can't hide that. That was fun. Like I really was worried about coming off that high of the final in the Four Nations and then having to watch like a dud of a game, which I don't know if it was like that for Sens fans, but for me it was great.
Yeah. Look, Montreal's played Ottawa twice this year. They've scored 9 times. That's if you can keep doing that, you're gonna keep Canadiens fans very, very happy. All right, we're gonna stick with this game when we come back in our second segment. We have to talk about the night that Juraj Slafkovsky had and how this might pay dividends for the rest of his season in Montreal. And we'll get to that in just a moment.
Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I personally love all of them. The no shells, with the shells, they have so many different flavors and they are so good. And it's complete protein, providing all 9 essential amino acids. And they're so delicious. It's just so easy as well. Grab and go. If you're looking for a snack, you really want something that's going to keep you full and also is nutritious. Really, it's really going to be Wonderful Pistachios. Get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And speaking of packing a protein punch, this show is also sponsored by Farm to Fork. If you're a fan of premium, locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door, I've got some exciting news. Farm to Fork makes it easy to get high-quality steaks, air-chilled chicken, wild-caught seafood, and more, all with no antibiotics, hormones, or GMOs. Plus, everything comes flash frozen and individually packaged for your convenience. All Farm to Fork meats are raised on Canadian farms, so when you order, you're supporting local producers. It's time to buy Canadian. Farm to Fork's meats are top-notch. I've had some amazing steaks that were tender, juicy, and perfectly cooked. Their chicken is air-chilled, so it's fresher and more flavorful than what you get in the store. And the wild-caught seafood is a game changer. Fresh, clean, and full of flavor. Personally, for me, it's really the seafood. I've been trying to get more protein in my diet lately. I want to be one of those protein girlies, and Farm to Fork has all the stuff for us. And they're delivering all across Ontario and Western Quebec. And the best part, delivery is free with a minimum order of $199. You don't even need to leave the house to get this quality. I've got a special code just for you. Use LOCKEDON40 to get $40 off your first order at Farm to Fork. Visit farmtoforkdelivery.ca, and the 2 is number 2, so FARM number 2 FORK delivery.ca to start stocking up on the best meats around. Again, that's LOCKEDON40 for $40 off your first order. Farm to Fork, delicious locally farmed meats delivered straight to your door.
All right, we are back. And I don't know if we're technically in the second half of our show, but if we were, Juraj Slafkovsky would be running through the wall like Kool-Aid Man. Second half Slav is a real thing. We just need to understand that at this point in his career, he starts slow. That can't last forever. Let's be quite honest about that.
Yeah,
he needs to. I think one of our listeners, Ed, replied to me on Blue Sky and said, "Can we just get him a calendar that starts the year in February?" And then, and I was like, "Yes, that's a fantastic idea. Just tell him opening night is Valentine's Day and let him go out there and just rip it up." His stat line for Saturday night is spectacular. 1 goal, 5 penalty minutes, 5 shots,
and 8 hits on the night for Juraj Slafkovsky. What it is, I know a lot of people wanted to see him play like that sort of wrecking ball physical force. Before the game, he had said that they want him to play more like Brady Tkachuk. That's exactly what he said. Is that sort of what you want to see from him moving forward?
Yes, absolutely, because he was intense, right? And the thing is, like, intense is like an intangible, and I often hate intangibles, but with Juraj Slafkovsky, it's that he has this energy, and sometimes he just doesn't know how to channel it well, right? So he's never coming on the ice and being lazy. When we say that he has bad games, he's not coming out and being lazy. He's just not using his tools to the best of his ability, right? So he was very focused. He was locked in, which I really like. And that to me was like, it showed that he had a little bit more confidence. And I think, I can't remember if it was before the game or after the game, he was talking about how he played embarrassingly up until this point. I think embarrassing was the word that he used. I don't know if I would go that far. I think he was just not up to par, right? Like not up to the standards that we expect for him. So for him to be able to channel it and get it back to me, like, and one thing that I realized is that even though he is one of the youngest players on this team, and even though this team is like really immature, like I feel like sometimes like his body language rubs off on the others, right? When he's playing big and physical, the rest of them seem to be playing big, even if they're not necessarily that physical as players, right? And so he really knew that he needed to make an impression, and sort of erase our memories of those games where, when we say he was bad, like it wasn't like he was putting the puck in his own net 7 times a game. That wasn't it. It was just that like his inability to play to his game meant that everyone else around him was overcompensating and trying to overthink and do things that they're not really suited to. And that was causing the team as a whole not to do well, right? So that's where I'm coming from with his words there, where he's saying like it was embarrassing. I'm just really glad to see him like get back to what we know he can do. And he didn't look at all like he missed a step at all in that game.
No, I think that this is a play style that, I mean, his body is built for, right? He's built to do this. The problem is that if everybody could play like Brady Tkachuk, they would, right? It's like the prototypical if you were to ask somebody who didn't watch hockey what a hockey player was like, they would essentially describe Brady Tkachuk, right? They would say, big, fast, physical, could still score, right? That's all stuff Brady Tkachuk does. I don't know if this is who Slafkovsky is going to be long-term. I wonder, because the physical play takes a toll, right? It takes its toll on your body. The bigger guys, there's a lot more mass going into every collision, which is just, that's science. There's more energy going into every time he throws himself at somebody. I wonder how sustainable all of this is. Not that I'm worried about him. He's 20, right? He's 20 years old. Like, if you want him to play like that, this is the time in his life he should be learning to play that way. But like, it is something in the back of my mind that I'm like, can he do that? Can he be that Slafkovsky 82 times a year? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that yet. And nor does anybody. We saw him do it once, right? Let's see him do it again against a really good team in Carolina.
Yeah, and like I think it's important to note too that when he was drafted, the comparisons were like Jaromir Jagr, right? They weren't Brady Tkachuk.
No, Marian Hossa is another one that keeps coming up.
Yeah. So like for me, like, yes, it's great to have that raw skill, but there's other guys on this team that also have that. Like having that skill plus that physicality is something special. It's like we were just talking about that defense pairing of Lane Hudson and Jaden Struble. You put those two together, make them a forward, that's what you get. Juraj Slafkovsky is what you get, or Brady Tkachuk is what you get. And Juraj Slafkovsky, emulating him. We're trying to who wouldn't take Brady Tkachuk on their team? Like every single time we talk about him and how much we hate him, but we would love him on our team. Like we would take him on our team in a heartbeat. Maybe we don't need to, right?
No.
Maybe when we will the forces of hockey to trade him out of Ottawa and somewhere else, it's not here.
No, and what's so funny about that is, okay, so Brady Tkachuk was drafted 4th overall. Montreal had the 3rd overall pick, and they picked a guy that we're going to see on Tuesday night in Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who for what it's worth, had a lot of the same struggles that Slafkovsky has, right? Like he's a big for nothing forward a lot of the time. I think the show that was coined on this, the term that was coined on this show was murder toddler. Like that's who you wanted Jesperi Kotkaniemi to play like, because when he was more engaged that way, he was incredible. Slafkovsky's not too dissimilar from that at this point in his career. We hope that it ends up a little bit differently, but looking back on that Kotkaniemi pick, any one of us would rather have had Brady Tkachuk, which stinks that he went to Ottawa. He's an incredible player. I kind of hate that we've been gassing him up this entire show, but that's just what it is. He's a great player.
He still lost on Thursday night.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, woof. I was. Did Ottawa give Sam Montembeault any kind of ovation?
I don't know because I was 3 minutes late into the game.
I don't think they did, which is sort of like he just won, a championship for Canada. It's fine. I mean, yes, he didn't play, but like he was there. Whatever. We'll probably see it on Tuesday. Once Montreal
congratulations returns. on your gold medal for showing up.
Yeah, he got an A on the group project that he did no work on.
It's a literal participation medal. It's so great.
Beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. All right, we're going to step aside once again and talk about that potential celebration game on Tuesday when Montreal returns home, and we'll take a look at the rest of the games of the week as well in our weekly forecast, and we'll get into that in just a minute. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or you want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting. Whether I'm backing my team for a late-game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch three, I never feel like I've truly missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, we get to return to a segment where I belch a bunch of stats out and we try to figure out how the Canadiens will do this week. 3 games on the tap for the Canadiens in our weekly forecast. They are at home against Carolina on Tuesday and San Jose on Thursday. And then they travel to Buffalo Saturday night for the first half of a home and home against the Sabres. But let's start on Tuesday against the Carolina Hurricanes. Carolina is still one of the best teams in the league, 33-20-4 for 70 points, second in the Metro, 9th in the NHL. They are what I find interesting about that record is they are 21-16-1 at home and 12-14-3 on the road. They have a negative record on the road. So if you were looking for an opportunity for the Canadiens to get one against Carolina, which they didn't do last year, this is your opportunity. Last season, the Canadiens won all 3, a 5-3 win and a 4-1 win in Carolina and a 3-0 win in Montreal. Power play, pretty pedestrian. 22nd in the league, 19.8%. Penalty kill is first in the NHL, though, 85%. They are going to cover Patrick Laine like a blanket in that game. So look for alternate routes if you're on the power play for the Montreal Canadiens. Aho is a point per game player, 56 and 56. They traded their only other point per game player in Marty Necas. So under that, they have Seth Jarvis, fresh off of his victory with Canada, 45 in 50. Svechnikov, 42 points in 56 games. Rantanen has 3 points, a goal and an assist in 7 games since being traded to the Hurricanes. Taylor Hall is not so fortunate. 1 assist in 17 games in almost 15 minutes of average time on ice since being traded to the Carolina Hurricanes. He just might be cooked. Peter Kochetkov in net is 902-255 in 35 starts. Freddie Anderson is a 914 and a 212 in 9 starts. What is it about the Hurricanes that we all just kind of really dislike watching? It seems like they've sort of taken the same mantle for me as like the Wild and the Devils of we're just going to get a very boring hockey game on Tuesday night. Am I on the same line? Am I on the right path there?
They are also always like injure a Canadian. Like, it's always, yeah. And like, obviously the distaste I have from the whole Kotkaniemi stuff, that was a different, like that let's place the blame squarely on the shoulders of Mark Bergevin for that one. Like, he handled the Aho thing incorrectly. He handled the Kotkaniemi thing. No, he did. I guess he did okay with Kotkaniemi. Like, he shouldn't have given up to keep him, but then he
It was
went and
what he
got
did
something.
afterwards that was
Yeah.
a mistake.
Yeah.
Which,
So like there's just like a lot of like distaste. It's not even bad blood. It's like distaste. And I know that there's like a change in general management there. I'm actually a huge fan of Eric Tulsky. But I think that they're grinding, they're physical, they're not exciting. They're good. They're really well put together. They are well coached, for better for worse, right? They don't tend to do well in the playoffs, and I don't really know why. But I mean, Colorado went through that like a few years, just bowing out in the second round before finally hitting their Stanley Cup. But I just there's something about them that it's a grinding game. And you always end up looking at your watch and thinking, "Oh my God, how much longer do we have left?"
yeah, it's funny you mentioned they're well coached. I think they are too. In Rod Brindamore, it's kind of shocking he wasn't involved with Team Canada in some way, shape, or form.
Maybe
He's
he
one of
didn't
the
go to the
longer.
World.
Maybe he didn't go to Worlds. That's what it is, right? Did John Cooper go to Worlds? I don't even know if that's true. We just didn't go to Worlds. We might as well put on a T-shirt. I think it's the
It's a meme
funniest.
now.
It's the funniest thing. The thing about this Carolina game is that I think if the Canadiens can beat Carolina, they have a chance to go on a bit of a run.
Yeah.
They beat Ottawa Saturday night. If they can find a way to grab 2 points or even 1 point,
We
against
can't do
Carolina,
the hope thing.
No, I know, but like this is it's not about getting back in the mix. It's not about making the playoffs. It's about just putting together the best efforts you can and leaving these players with a good taste in their mouth at the end of the year, right? Like I know people are like, "Oh, I'm team tank again." Like it's too late to be team tank. Like we're too baked in at this point, and this team is not good and is not bad enough to be, where all of these other teams are. They're not catching San Jose. They're not catching Chicago. They're not catching these guys. So you might as well just have them finish the season strong. But like I said, what's that?
Speaking of San Jose.
Yeah, we'll get to them in a minute. My preview on them is quite short. But yeah, I think like with if they can beat Carolina, then they have San Jose Thursday, Buffalo and Buffalo. There's a chance they can go on a bit of a run here and maybe change the way that we look at this team.
Yeah.
And it starts on Tuesday against Carolina. Any predictions for that one?
Tuesday, like I think it's going to be 3-2 to Carolina. I think the Canadiens are going to put up a fight, but I don't want them to squander this opportunity, right? Like, Carolina's not unbeatable, and I didn't realize that their road record was a losing record, and so that really makes me feel good. And I hope that the momentum from the first game back, I really just think, Patrick Laine feeling good, like Juraj Slafkovsky knowing what he has to do, the rest of them will just fall in line.
Yep. No, I think so too. I think the rest of the lineup played pretty well against Ottawa. I think you can keep the physicality up. The Hurricanes have taken the 7th most hits in the league because they always have the puck. You can wear them down that way. They play a puck possession game. They kind of game shot attempts, if we're being quite honest. That's what that team has done for years. So just stick with them, take the puck away from them, and try to, you have to take advantage of the few chances you're going to get in that game. All right. San Jose Thursday. They are 32nd in the NHL. We last saw them on February 4th, a 4-3 win in San Jose. The Canadiens barely scraped out a win against the Sharks towards the end of that.
Get right game.
And it was in a way, but none of us felt good about it. Mostly because we were up until butt o'clock watching it. That's part of it. But also, they did not play well in that game. They won because the Sharks are an AHL team around Macklin Celebrini. Like that's what that team is. And they just traded Mikael Granlund, who had a great Worlds, by the way. But not Worlds. You know what I meant. 4 Nations. See, we're on the Worlds. I have to keep thinking about Worlds now. San Jose, like, what are you looking at Thursday night when they come to the Bell Center?
Dominate. We can't have another like scraping by win. Like, absolutely beat the crap out of them. That's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
No, same. I had don't play down. You need to put your foot on the gas here. Have another chance at maybe if they can take care of business against Carolina, they might be in a situation where they can win 3 straight, something they've done a few times this year, but not a whole lot before that. Yeah. So keep your foot on the gas. Yeah, of course. We're not going to be team tank right now. That's not helpful to anybody's rest of season. All right. In Buffalo Saturday night, the Sabres 51 points, 8th in the Atlantic. First half of a home and home. Montreal won the first 2 games, won 7-5 on that afternoon game on Remembrance Day, and a 6-1 win back on December 17th. That first one, Suzuki and Caulfield had 2 goals each, and that last game against Buffalo, Laine had a hat trick. So lots of goals to go around in this one. I will say the Sabres in their first game back from Four Nations, they beat the Rangers 8-2. So that was kind of shocking, just that the Sabres could do that, or that the Rangers clearly didn't take the step that we thought they were going to coming out of Four Nations. Any thoughts on that game against Buffalo?
I think despite their win against the Rangers, like Buffalo, we don't know what's going to happen in during the week, right? Until Saturday. But Buffalo is still very much a team that's struggling in disarray, et cetera, et cetera. They're not a great team. So Montreal can beat them. But at the same time, it always feels like whenever they play in Buffalo, shenanigans happen. And the Canadiens end up losing a very boring game. So what I'm looking for is excitement. I'm looking for, again, foot on the gas, killer instinct, all of that kind of stuff. Because I'd really like to see a good game. And, the closer we get to that game, the closer I realize like the following week is the trade deadline. And so, we don't know what the lineup is going to look like for all the games we just mentioned, but that could be one of the last games that we see some of these players in a Montreal Canadiens uniform. So for me, It's really, really important that the Canadiens do not allow San Jose into the game, and they do not allow Buffalo a chance in that game on Saturday.
Yeah, I just said keep filling the net against Buffalo. The rest of it will take care of itself. They've played 2 games against Buffalo. They've scored 13 times. That's just, if you can do that, you'll be all right. You can outscore a lot of the problems that you have on this roster. So yeah, and I think you make a good point about the trade deadline coming up. We might be entering, being scratched for trade reasons era of the season, where we're waiting to see guys get dealt and they don't want to get them hurt in one of the final games before the trade deadline. So we'll see how that week turns out. Stick with us this week. We'll have you guys covered on all of those games as well. All right, let's hit our trivia and then head out of here. Our last episode's question was fairly simple. Who won the Four Nations face-off? And we had a lot of fun. People had a lot of fun in the comments on this one. Jack Eye Face Punch says, was it Canada? Good Sport had it. We had Kyle Roberts saying, I was going to say the Habs won the Four Nations face-off because no one was hurt, but Pizzetta ended up getting hurt. So I find that to be very funny. So yes, congratulations to all of you guys on that. And most of all, congratulations to all of us for having to watch Canada defeat the United States. All right. Today's question is a follow the player path. New York Rangers, Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, Montreal, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, Florida. Do that one again. New York Rangers, Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, Montreal, Ottawa, Pittsburgh, Florida. If you have the answer, put it in the comments. You guys know how to find us. Send it to us any way you know how. We'll shout you out on the next episode of the show. But that's going to do it for us on today's episode of Locked On Canadiens. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, head over to Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Get the edge over your league mates with daily tips from Steal and Flip. Subscribe to Locked On Fantasy Hockey wherever you get podcasts. Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube or any of the podcasting apps. You will find us there. You'll find us on Blue Sky, Locked On Canadiens there. Locked On Canadiens just about anywhere you can post things. TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky. You can find us on Gmail, lockedoncanadiens@gmail.com. Send in your mailbag questions. We are always doing a mailbag every Friday. Send in your questions and we'll shout you out on the show. You can find me at Maybe It's Ian. You can find my co-host Laura at The Active Stick. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys tomorrow.